For years, I've 37 female thought I was in the right. But after rehashing this again over the weekend with my family, I'm unsure. Context: 10 years ago, I dated this guy, now 39, briefly, and during this time, I fell head over heels for him. He was my dream guy, handsome, funny, and had a good career as a lawyer. One day, we met up to talk per his request, and I was ecstatic, as I thought he would ask me to be his girlfriend. However, he explained he thought we should stop seeing each other as we were looking for different things. Me, a husband, and him something casual. He was only staying in my town for a few months to handle his family's business legal issues, and then back to work in New York. I was absolutely gutted. A month later, my sister, now 34, graduated from law school and came home for a few weeks before heading to live in New York. My sister and I have never been close, so she had no idea of my heartbreak, and I was unaware that she had met my ex while out one day. It wasn't until I heard her talking on the phone with a friend, describing a very familiar guy, I put it all together. Once I learned this, I confronted her, and it turned out she had no idea we dated. Naturally, she was angry at him, but when confronted, it turned out he also had no idea we were sisters, since she never talked about our family. We have very different features and different last names. After finding this out, they decided to just get over it, since me and him were never really serious. He asked her to be his girlfriend, and they decided to continue their relationship in New York. You could just tell by looking at them together. They were crazy about each other. Once again, I felt absolutely gutted. This is what our big argument was about. I feel my sister betrayed me and broke the girl or sister code by continuing to be with him after everything. She should have had my back, whether or not we were close. She felt that I was taking a 3-week courtship too seriously and that I should have given her a pass in this situation, as she had no idea. At the time, most of the family took my side, except for my mom, who remained neutral. Years later now, my family only knows what's going on in my sister's life through my mom's updates, which my sister allowed. Turns out she married that guy. They have 2 kids together and are still practicing law in their respective fields. In the latest update we received this weekend, it turns out my sister's pregnant again, and she told my mom they agreed this is their last one. Once my family heard this, they lost their crap. They want to be in her life now, meet her family, and connect with her during this pregnancy, since it's her last. They wanted me to apologize for making a big deal out of nothing, but I refused. However, now I'm thinking it over, and maybe it is time to get over this entire situation, as my sister and my ex did a decade ago. Am I an idiot after all this time? Was I the idiot to even begin the argument? You are the idiot. You and this guy didn't work out 10 years ago over a 3-week fling. You're jealous that things did work out with him and your sister, and you're taking it out on her. It's not like she started dating him to spite you. She didn't even know. Get over yourself. I bet you're still single, LOL. Can you imagine the guy's point of view? He goes on a few dates with the girl, and in 3 weeks she's like, I want a husband. Commit to me. No wonder he ran like Bambi across the meadow. It might be different if OP had introduced the guy to her sister, and certainly if they had been in a committed relationship. And considering the way the family ostracized the sister, if I was her, they wouldn't be allowed within a mile of my kids. Sister code of not dating each other's exes, but in this case, there was no ex. Plus, it was very brief what you had with this guy. Why should your sister give up being with what has turned out to be the love of her life for you? Your behavior has only confirmed how glad he is that he didn't choose you. I can't believe your family and nieces and nephews have missed out on each other's company due to your petty behavior. Shame on them for allowing it to get so far. I agree, but I think the family's being let off the hook a little too easily here. What kind of family goes no contact with someone for 10 years because of one person's perceived slight? I agree OP is the idiot, but it feels like something else is being left out here. She's probably the golden child too. OP, please, for your own good, let this go. Leave your sister be. She's living her best life while you're still stuck in the past. You're still young enough to grow up and move on. Stop being bitter. Start therapy and live your life. My brother got a girl pregnant, basically right out of high school. My parents disowned him because he wanted to stay in the kid's life instead of just paying monthly child support and going no contact. This led him to dropping out of college and working full-time to help support his girlfriend and future kid. So recently, my parents have decided to retire and move to the Bahamas. They left their companies to me, which are worth a good chunk of change since I was already working for them. Recently, my nephew and his mom found out about this and inquired if they left their nephew anything. I told them that my parents didn't want anything to do with her and her kid and didn't leave her anything. My brother passed away 5 years ago. I thought that was all there was to it, but she asked me if I would give her kid my brother's half of the inheritance. For some more context, my parents didn't want my brother to have anything since they believed he couldn't make good decisions as the head of a company. I told her this and assumed that was it since she left. Unfortunately, a few days later, she's been pestering me about doing the right thing and giving the kid his share of his grandparents' wealth, and it's been a massive nuisance. Edit for clarity, it's not legally inheritance. I just called it that because that's basically what they did. I transferred the assets I'd get when they died to me a bit early. You are the idiot. Your parents are the idiots here for not acknowledging their grandchild and trying to make their son reject his child. Now you're following in their footsteps. I don't think I'd give her half, but I think any decent person would want their nephew to grow up without being in poverty and want a relationship with their dead sibling's child. Maybe you could pay a monthly amount for child support or set up a trust fund for college. I'm not sure how old the kid is. Normally I'd say not your problem. It's their money, etc., etc. But you're part of a toxic family, and you have a chance to help someone who's been unfairly excluded. And did you have any affection or respect for your brother? This is one of those cases where you're technically in the clear, but you're the idiot, if only by passive association with your parents' cruelty. I disagree. Not the idiot. Your parents' decision is a separate story. Before his death, your brother was responsible for creating a will and estate for his child. That being said, the money your parents gave you is yours to do what you will. Do you have a relationship with the girlfriend? Or did she turn up out of the blue with her hand out? Would your brother want you to help provide something for his child? If so, determine what amount or percentage you feel is appropriate. You aren't obligated to have. I have several children whose mother is no longer in the picture. While raising them as a single parent, I've always told them that I'll pay for their college so they won't graduate with debt. But there are strings attached. The main one is that they must pick degrees to support their lifestyle. The other main stipulation is that I'll continue to support them for a year, after which they'll be on their own. My eldest graduated last year with a degree with which I wholeheartedly disagree. We had heated discussions about their career choice while they were in school, but I was unsuccessful at getting this child to change their mind due to their passion for this field. They're now working in a field that pays about $65,000 a year, with a career ceiling of approximately $85,000. There's not a path to make more in this career in our city and state. I bought them a car as a graduation gift and have been paying for the insurance and maintenance. I've also allowed this child to use my account at the grocery store. I've also been paying my child's $5,000 a month apartment rent and utilities since last year. And now their lease is coming up and they want to re-sign it. When they came to me a couple of days ago, I reminded them that it's been a year and now they're on their own. We got into a heated discussion, which boiled down to the fact that they can't afford to live in the city while working at their jobs. They would have to move so far out that they'll have to find another job when the market's not great. I refused to budge as they knew this was coming, and I wanted to make sure my other kids knew I was serious about them earning their own way through life. During our discussion, I dropped the other shoe, that they're responsible for paying their own way from now on, which includes our family reunion vacation next summer. They argued there was no way they could afford to pay for everything, including a 2 weeks vacation in Europe, on their salary, and begged me to reconsider. I refused. This child called their grandparents, aunts and uncles, my parents, sisters and brothers, to get them to change my mind. My other kids stayed out of it, but the rest of the family's evenly split. Half thinks I should continue to pay, since I can easily afford to, while the other half agrees with my own sink or swim decision. Am I being too strict? Not the idiot. Someone earning $65K has no business living in a $5K per month apartment unless they have 4 roommates. If after getting a fully paid degree, they feel they still need to be subsidized, let the grandparents, aunts, and uncles who think you're being unfair figure out how to divide the rest of your child's expenses between them. Please keep your foot down. Who wants to have to subsidize their adult children for the foreseeable future? I'm not sure if you get it either. Pick degrees that will support their lifestyle. That's not how it works. People don't magically become an engineer if they suck at math. I have no clue what Dad's lesson is here. He's essentially pushing this kid off a cliff. This whole situation sounds like a recipe for disaster. That's what I was thinking. Like $5K a month for an apartment? The only salary I can think of that would max out at $85K a year in a city where rent averaged that high would be maybe teaching, at which point I kind of feel for the daughter because teachers are wholeheartedly taken advantage of. Also, the family trip was never mentioned, and expecting any recent grad to be able to afford a 2-week trip to Europe on their dime is kind of insane. A European vacation on a budget differs from a European vacation planned by someone with tons of money. OP is planning a vacation on his budget and wants his daughter to pay. OP, you are the idiot. You set your child up for failure. By continuing to pay for everything, you allowed them to live over their means. Why would you do that? At no point was your kid ever going to be able to afford $5,000 rent on a $65K salary. If you were paying for everything, where's all their money going? They knew this was coming. You both knew it, and you have a lot more life experience. So for that reason, you allowed this train to go off the tracks. Get your kid a financial counselor, set realistic goals, and stay out of future financial planning. Me and my husband have 2 kids, Jake, male 22, and Tilly, female nearly adult. Our son still lives with us. He's in a relationship with a girl named Alice, 22, and they've been together for just over 8 months. Around a month ago, Jake asked us if she could move in. We agreed on the condition that she gets a job and doesn't cause any problems. For the first couple of weeks, it was all fine and cheerful. After that, it went downhill. I work nights, and during my break, I noticed I had missed a call from Tilly. At this point, it was like 1 a.m. Jake also works nights, and my husband was out of town. I called her back, and she was upset, and I could hear loud music and other noises. I asked her what had happened and where she was. Tilly explained that Alice invited her friends over to the house, and they were all getting intoxicated, acting crazy, and refusing to leave. I told Tilly to stay put, and I'd come home. I had to leave work, and I immediately drove home. I could hear the music booming from the house 2 blocks away. With how loud it was, I went ballistic as soon as I got through the door and yelled at Alice's friends to leave, or I called the cops. Alice was intoxicated and argumentative. As angry as I was, there was no reasoning with her or having a proper conversation, and she went to sleep. The house was absolutely trashed. I called my husband so we could make sense of the situation. When Jake got home, I told him what happened. I told Jake that his dad and I agreed that Alice couldn't stay here anymore, and she needed to be out by the end of next week. Jake protested and said we were being unfair and that it was just one mistake, and she deserved another chance. He got really upset and stormed off. Alice moved back in with her parents the next day. Now Jake is talking about moving in with them and is avoiding us. My husband is with me on this, but seeing my strained relationship with my son makes me wonder if we're wrong. A mistake? would be knocking over a vase. I could even see coming back from a night out intoxicated as being a mistake. Hosting a rager at your in-laws' home that you aren't even paying to stay in? That's a conscious choice. Not the idiot. You're not wrong. Alice does not deserve another chance. This wasn't a mistake. It was something she did deliberately. What was her next mistake going to be? Didn't she know she couldn't take and pawn your jewelry? She didn't know that your credit cards were for you, not her. She thought taking your car without asking and wrecking it was okay, just a mistake. Your son is finally getting some, so he's willing to follow her to her parents' house rather than admit she's wrong. Let him learn. Yeah, he's an adult, and he can follow her if he finds this treatment towards his sister, parents, and home acceptable. Keep communication open and be supportive in a hands-off way. Tell him your door is always open for him. I have a feeling that a girlfriend that likes to get trashed with her friends while he's at work is going to get old fast. I have a son, Emil, teen, with my ex-wife, Candace. We split up a few years ago, and it's been rough, especially since Candace has become extremely strict with Emil, especially when he started high school. Because of this, Emil spends every other weekend with Candace and her new husband, Aaron. Emil failed one of his courses this school year and has to take summer school. When Candace and Aaron found out about this, they gave Emil a bunch of punishments, the only relevant of which is that they took away his phone for the summer. We bought the phone when we were married, and I paid for the cell data. This Monday, Emil started his summer school course, which takes place physically at a school. I was uncomfortable with Emil traveling to school and back on his own without a way to contact me. I contacted Candace to ask her to give it back to him so that he could be safe. She said no, so I bought him a used one off of eBay and set it up as a blank slate for him to use. I opted for that option instead of a burner because I want this to be a long-term backup in case Candace and Aaron take his phone away for other reasons. This past month has made me realize I'm uncomfortable with him not having a phone, regardless of summer school. I've just spent the whole time worrying about him, but this was the push I needed to finally get him one that Candace can't take away. Taking his phone for periods is one of her and Aaron's favorite punishments. I contacted Candace in order to tell her that if she took his new phone away, I'd call the cops for theft because I had paid for it fully. I also asked if she would arrange to port the data from his old phone to the new one, and she predictably said no. Now she's angry at me for circumventing her and Aaron's discipline without talking to her first, and for taking the nuclear option. I told her that I tried to talk to her about returning the phone for summer school, and she refused. She said that that didn't count, for whatever reason. Now I'm thinking that maybe I went a little too far. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Nowadays, a phone is a communication device necessary for safety. You're treating it as such, while Candace and Aaron treat it as a toy or a privilege to be taken away as punishment. You're right to be worried about your son's safety. Aside from that, you can buy your son a phone for any reason. It's your money. Candace can make her opinion known, but in the end, she's your ex and has no say over how you spend your money. And why does Aaron have any input at all? He should mind his own business, honestly, especially since it's only been a few years. Speaking from experience, co-parenting with new partners, spouses, etc. Unfortunately, I'm the parent with weekend privileges and would never think to implement a months-long punishment without consulting his mother. You are the idiot. You messed up, I think. Threatening to call the cops on your co-parent is the nuclear option. You and Candace need to be on the same page about consequences. It undermines her, and also, maybe she thinks you're scoring cheap points being the cool parent, not the one who disciplines. I can see a solution where the boy has to use a minimalist, dumb phone for a while, but you need to break bread with your ex and her fella, and the boy, and have a discussion and clarification session about expectations, communication, and mutual commitment to being his caring, but not overindulgent parents. Then decide on the phone thing. start, my boyfriend, 24, and I, 23, have been together for 4 years. I am a Swiftie, and I told him at the beginning of our relationship about her song, Call It What You Want, which has this line, I want to wear his initial on a chain around my neck. I pointed the line out, hoping for a necklace with his initial, and I wasn't disappointed. For the next few years, it was the same gift. Same gifts for Valentine's Day, our anniversary, my birthday, and Christmas. Different types of metals and fonts, and reassured me that they were all expensive and high quality from luxury brands. He offered this info voluntarily. I never asked him. He gave me bracelets, anklets, rings, earrings, and a waist chain. I asked him multiple times to stop with the initial jewelry, but he says he's not good at getting gifts. So I send him links to things I want and make sure to explicitly say I want him to get it for me. He ignores the links. I keep track of what he talks about and mentions. This year I bought him winter boots, the AirPod Max, and 2 video games. He loved all of them, and I was so happy to see him smiling. I asked him to buy me a coat and some nice Dior makeup, but he ignored me and got another necklace with his name on it. I opened it and started bawling in front of his family. Finally, I screamed at him to stop getting me this crap and threw the box at him. I told him I wanted the gifts I gave him back so I could return them and get something I really wanted and buy him a necklace with my name on it for Christmas instead. He said that all the jewelry he's bought cost thousands of dollars, how I was the one that wanted the jewelry in the first place, and that I'd become a completely different person. He accused me of not wanting to tell people about being in a relationship to make it easier for me to cheat on him and for being a gold digger. Am I the idiot? I'm usually afraid of direct confrontation, and I'm horrified about how I acted in front of so many people. I've gotten calls and texts from many family members about how I'm not allowed back and how there was no need for me to ruin Christmas for everyone. Edit. My boyfriend bought me around 15 pieces of jewelry with his name and initial. Did it again on Christmas after I asked him not to, and I made a scene in front of his family. He doesn't understand why I don't want any more jewelry and thinks I don't love him anymore. He accuses me of cheating whenever I attempt to go out without the jewelry. He's back home tomorrow. I have a lot to think about and talk about. We've talked on the phone, and he has said a few times he's not upset or mad at me, so we can just go back to normal. But I think he just wants to avoid the bigger conversation. Everyone's the idiot. You for your reaction. You can't control the initial crying, but the throwing? You could. Him because he's being lazy by getting you the same thing, despite you telling him not to, despite you giving him other ideas. Dump him. He's a walking red flag. The initial thing has become his way of trying to display ownership. He accused you of trying to cheat. My money's on his cheating, and he has a guilty conscience. He's trying to guilt and manipulate you into believing you're the problem. This is what I thought as well. He doesn't care what she wants. He just wants to display his ownership of her, and it's gross. Notice he said she's only requesting other gifts because she doesn't want people to know she's dating him so she can cheat on him? As if her wearing 15 necklaces with his initials on them could safeguard against that or something. OP, find someone who listens to you. Doesn't accuse you of cheating because you don't want 101 pieces of name jewelry. Someone who puts the same effort into the relationship that you do. Not the idiot. How do people not understand that he's been buying her necklaces, bracelets, rings, etc. with his initials for every celebration for years now? Who does that? And after she explicitly told him to stop and gave him other suggestions for what she would like. This was the absolute last straw after years of the exact same stupid gift. She was driven to it. I'm sorry, but throwing a gift at someone in front of their family is not a good move. If they didn't like you, they likely won't now. No family's going to be okay with their son/brother's partner throwing a gift at them and then demanding all the gifts back. Throwing something at someone is actually abusive. Your behavior with the present was grossly inappropriate. No one told you to buy him $1,000 worth of gifts. That was your choice alone. Since it's a recurring problem, start getting him a similar gift for every occasion too. Maybe it'll sink in. OP, have you tried wearing all 15 necklaces at the same time? Every time you go out? Especially in front of his friends, colleagues, and family? If he wants you tagged with his ownership, I say roll with it until he sees the reaction. the 15 necklaces are getting from the other people. It would have been a much better move for Christmas Day with his family. Turn up wearing all 15 and smile, and add the 16th one to your neck. Oh, darling, this is exactly what I wished for, but didn't have. My wife's sister, Alice, 29, is currently 5 months pregnant. She and her boyfriend, the baby's father, have hit a rough patch, and Alice came to stay with us. She's been living with us for about 6 weeks now. Her job allows her to work from home, so she spends all her time at our house. Both my wife and I work outside of the home, so Alice is at home alone. For the most part, she's a good house guest. She's not overly messy and is most pleasant to be around. But pregnancy is weird. I understand hormones are a thing. Alice will have mood swings and gets really emotional really easily. She also gets cravings, which have fallen on me to solve for some reason. My wife has sent me out of the house at all hours of the day to get something for Alice, or send me on errands to pick something up specifically for Alice. When I protest to my wife, she says that Alice is going through an incredibly hard time, and we need to be supportive of her. I blew up at my wife when she sent me out to get Alice some fast food at 1 a.m. this past Saturday. I told my wife she should go, but she said she had to get up early for an appointment the next day. I ended up going, but told my wife that I was done with this because I'm not an errand boy, nor am I the father of Alice's kid. The next day, it was just Alice and me at our house while my wife was out running errands. I made myself a sandwich for lunch, and when Alice saw it, she said it looked really good and asked if I could make her one too. I told her the ingredients were still on the counter, so she could make one herself. She said she was feeling lightheaded and needed to sit down, but that some food would help her. I tried to tell her no, but she started getting emotional and saying how hard pregnancy is when you don't have a partner. So I said fine and went to make her a sandwich. But then she told me that I'd have to heat the lunch meat up because her doctor told her not to have lunch meat unless it's heated up first. At that point, I told her that I was not her baby's daddy, nor was I her servant. I told her I tried to be supportive and helpful, but I was done playing her partner's role. I told her that out of courtesy, I've given her privacy regarding her relationship issues, but that she's going to need to figure out a plan soon because this current situation isn't working for me anymore. Alice started crying, and I ended up leaving to give myself a chance to cool down. My wife was waiting for me when I got home and immediately laid into me. She told me I was a huge idiot for not just making Alice a sandwich, and an even bigger idiot for threatening to kick her out. She said that I should have known better than to bring up her relationship, and that it was a huge jerk move. My wife has always said that this would be temporary while Alice figures her stuff out. Still, the further Alice's pregnancy goes, the less progress I see toward a solution. Not the idiot. This isn't about a sandwich. It's about your wife pressuring you into making you into your sister-in-law's servant. I would ask if there's anywhere else for sister-in-law to go. 6 weeks is a long time. And yeah, she should be making long-term plans. However, if she really can't leave, you need to talk to your wife about boundaries. Alice is an adult, and she can make her own sandwich or get her own food at 1 a.m. I'm also curious as to why his spouse isn't the one bending over backward for Alice, even though it's her saying that they need to be supportive of her. Why doesn't the wife go at 1 a.m. to pick up food for Alice, or go to the grocery store to satisfy Alice's cravings? It's her sister who's pregnant, not the OP's. The further Alice's pregnancy goes, the least progress I see toward a solution. You know that kid will be growing up in your home, right? Because Alice is having a tough time raising a 1-year-old by herself. Put your foot down. Your wife will do all the errands from now on. Ask your wife when Alice is moving out and what the plan is. Should you start decorating a room for the kid? In all honesty, asking about decorating the baby's room isn't a bad idea. If your wife even thinks about it for 1 second, you've already got your answer in regards to what's really going on and what they have planned. Who knows? Maybe OP's wife will try to convince OP to put his name on the birth certificate. LOL. So my siblings and I have an older uncle that we're pretty sure doesn't know our names. He calls us the big one, Blondie, the boy, the hag, and the little one. My youngest sister, a teen, is the hag. When she was little, she had a different name. I can't remember what it was, but when she got older, She started to look exactly like our mom. He and our mom mess with each other, and he calls her a witch and an old hag. He started calling my little sister the hag. She didn't mind it when we were younger. She used to join in the teasing, but now that she's older, she hates it. She returned his birthday present to him because he had written the hag on the label. This Christmas gifts this year were labeled with all of our nicknames, except my sister's had the Grouch written on it instead of the hag. My sister threw a fit. She was yelling that all of us have nice nicknames except for her, and this BS isn't funny anymore, and he needs to use her real name if he wants respect from her. It was a really over-the-top tantrum, especially considering he got her the nicest gift out of all of us. I told her she needed to get over herself and realize that our uncle isn't going to change our names he's called us since we were babies. He doesn't mean any harm by them, and she just needs to accept hers. Now she's calling me a witch, and my parents say I should have left her alone and want me to apologize to her to keep the peace. Am I the idiot for telling her she needs to get over herself and the fact that she doesn't like the nickname he gave her? You are the idiot. You literally say he isn't changing nicknames that you've had since babies, yet he's changed hers several times, and they aren't nice. She might look like your mom, but she isn't your mom, so he shouldn't be taking their inside jokes out on her. He is an idiot and so are you. Who cares what gift he got her? Are you mad about the gift or mad that she no longer has a crappy nickname? Right? Can't remember their names, but can consistently remember to use the same insulting nicknames? Please. Also, the entire family are idiots. Who goes along with calling a kid the hag as a family nickname? What even is this family dynamic? Poor girl. How much do you want to bet that OP is Blondie? Pretty sure she is. I also suspect she's the next up from the youngest, because this has the tone of a displaced baby of the family. I wonder how old she'll be when she clues in to how a guy like her uncle probably regards people he thinks of as a blondie. OP, would you like being called a freaking hag? He doesn't mean any harm. Well, he's causing harm, and you're dismissing it. Maybe try putting yourself in your sister's shoes. Have some empathy. You definitely owe your sister an apology. How would you like it if she started calling you the witch? That's her nickname for you. And sorry, you just have to suck it up because she gave it to you. My father-in-law came over to talk to my husband because he wasn't answering his calls. He seemed pretty upset when he realized he wasn't home and was having dinner with a potential business contact. He wanted to know where the dinner was taking place, but I wasn't sure, and my husband never answered when I tried to call him. My father-in-law wanted me to keep trying because he said he had something time-sensitive to discuss with my husband, but wouldn't tell me what. So I offered to find out where he was with Find My iPhone, as my father-in-law made it seem serious. He went to the restaurant where they were at, and I don't know exactly what happened, but my husband was angry at me when he came home. He said I shouldn't have helped his dad find him, and that he wasn't happy that I was using Find My iPhone to keep tabs on his location. I told him I don't keep tabs on him, but he said he didn't want to hear it. He's still upset with me. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. If your husband wanted to talk to his father, he would have answered his calls. You don't know what father-in-law wanted to speak to him about, and time-sensitive could mean today, this week, or even this year. If I was at work, which dinner with a potential business contact is, I wouldn't want my parent randomly showing up and interrupting us to talk about family business or whatever. Exactly. Why would you send your father-in-law to interrupt your husband's business meeting? You must not like your husband being employed or making money for your family. I'd be angry at you too. If it was an emergency, father-in-law would have said what it was. Anything else should have waited until after dinner. How embarrassing for him. You repeatedly called for a non-emergency while your husband was with a business client. You give your father-in-law, who's already railroaded you, your husband's location, using a means meant for emergencies. And what kind of person goes to the restaurant where their son is at a business meeting to discuss a very sensitive situation in a public place? You should have realized that this was not going to end well. OP, you sound dense and naive. Yeah, I cringed so hard when I read that they kept repeatedly calling him while he was in a business meeting. I assumed the husband worked with his father and was trying to go out on his own, or his father didn't trust him to make decisions. At least that's what this move sounds like. You all have major boundary issues. For the last couple of years, I avoided spending Christmas with my family because I've had a bad relationship with my brother, and my parents defend him when he says some pretty awful things. And we've had small Christmases because of the global issue. But this year we were going to my grandparents' place, and there would be lots of family there. So I thought it would be easier to just avoid my brother, and there'd be more people who might be annoyed at my brother if he decided to be a jerk, so he might not. But like every time my brother decided to drink too much and make fun of me for my weight, he says this joke where he pulls food away from me at dinner when I'm about to take some, and he says I don't need it because I'm fat, or says I should go jog a lap around the house to earn it. He did it multiple times, and every time I told him he needed to stop acting like a jerk. Like always, my parents ignored him, but so did everyone else, except my uncle, who laughed at me with my brother. I told my uncle to stop laughing because it encouraged him, but he didn't. I ended up leaving halfway through dinner and taking all the presents I brought with me. I didn't make a fuss. I just picked up my bags and left because we hadn't done presents yet, and they were all still together in my bags. Later, multiple family members told me I was being childish and trying to ruin Christmas for everyone by walking out and taking the gifts. They said I brought the whole mood down for the rest of the night, and everyone had a bad time because of me. Even though a few of them agreed my brother was being a jerk, they said they didn't do anything wrong, and I punished them for no reason. I think that sitting around and not saying anything when he was making fun of me was wrong. And I feel like if they weren't even willing to say a single thing against him or stand up for me, they don't deserve to get gifts from me. Also, I think it's a bit of an overreaction to say I ruined Christmas just because I quietly walked out and because they all got one or two fewer presents than they would have. Oh man, your family was more upset by losing your presents than caring for your presents. Not the idiot OP. This is a pretty typical and backward family dynamic. Everyone agrees that the bully or abuser is wrong, but they also agree that the victim should keep quiet to keep the peace. Plan something different for next year. Bullying disguised as jokes is still bullying and unacceptable behavior. I'd flat out tell them that letting your brother harass you and laugh at you without saying anything was wrong. Letting someone you care about be treated that way is wrong, and your leaving was the consequence of everyone's lack of action. I tell them that if they wanted you there, they should act like it and act like you matter instead of letting you be dumped on. I think you made a good choice by leaving. The fact that you left quietly shows a level of class and respect that your family seems to lack. I hope you find others to spend the holidays with who actually understand the meaning of the holiday spirit. Find some happiness and don't let them guilt you about it. Blood relative doesn't mean you need to absorb mistreatment.